Hello and welcome back to Boiler Room Reviews. My name is Ian and today I'm going to be talking about the Daphne du Maurier short story collection, The Birds and Other Stories. This is the first book I've read by Daphne du Maurier. I have this one and Don't Look Now and other short stories. Interested in reading Rebecca, The Jamaica Inn, but I wanted to start with some stories that I'm familiar with. I'm quite a horror fan, so The Birds and Don't Look Now were on my radar. Seen the films, but wanted to obviously delve into the source material. I've only seen The Birds once, the Hitchcock film, and that was when I was a very young boy. We used to visit our grandparents, and they had a drawer underneath the television set where they kept all of the VCRs recorded off telly, most of them. And my usual go-to was Jason and the Argonauts, but one day I picked up The Birds and I took it through to my parents and grandparents and said, can I watch this one? I was probably 5 or 6 and they all sort of ummed and ahed for a minute and it could be a bit scary, but in the end they let me watch it and I really enjoyed it, but I don't remember it all that well. So there's quite a few stories in this and I'll try to keep this brief and go through them one by one. So it opens with The Birds and it's quite a brief, it's about 40 pages long, so it's only brief and it centres around a family and a small sort of farming community in the West Country in England. So it doesn't have that expanse that the Hitchcock film does. We follow the family and the gradual threat of the birds, minor attacks starting and then these huge flocks appearing. And as much as it is centred purely on this community, they are listening to radio broadcasts that are suggesting that it's happening all across the nation. I found these sequences where the birds are attacking, the family are sort of holed up and boarding up their house and boarding up the chimneys and all that sort of thing. And then there's the worry about food and provisions. I found that quite exciting, decent read. But as I say, it's only 40 pages long, so you can fly through it in just, an hour, really. But yeah, very compelling, a good start to the novel. We then move on to the second story, Monte Verita, which I think from memory is the longest of the stories and it's sort of getting on to novella length. This story is told by a gentleman in retrospect of events. So he takes us through the events and he has a friend that they like to go climbing, mountaineering, that sort of thing. And his friend meets a woman, they fall in love, they get married. There's hints that the narrator is also in love with her as well. But the narrator's friend and his new wife, they go mountaineering in an area in Europe that isn't specified, and she disappears. And there's rumours of a sort of secretive cult or sect, rumours of magic, people living forever, this sort of thing. So we then follow the narrator returning and trying to find out effectively what happened to her. I'm not going to spoil it, so I'm just going to leave it there in terms of plots. This one, there was a lot of elements of nature in it, humanity's relationship with nature. Also, there was sort of elements of Frankenstein in it, in terms of people being suspicious of outsiders, people that behave differently. But yeah, that was a very, very good one. Very good one. The third story in the novel is called The Apple Tree, which is what the short story collection was initially titled, The Apple Tree and Other Stories. This was my favourite out of all of the stories, easily. The main premise is it's about a couple. The gentleman's retired and he's not really enjoying his retirement. His relationship with his wife is somewhat strained. He's trying to relax in his later years and she seems to feel burdened by her tasks around the house and he feels that her behaviours are ruining his peace. And the way it's written is really good. It's really convincing, this relationship. So the wife passes away and for a time he feels like some release from it and he's enjoying himself, taking a longer holiday. But then there's the apple tree in the garden, this haggard apple tree that he wants to chop down and the gardener at the property doesn't want to because it starts budding. Again, I don't want to say too much, but it's hinted that his wife might be manifesting herself in this apple tree, or maybe he's just losing his mind. But I thought it was brilliant and the ending is fantastic. Really, really good. Sort of classic old school horror short story ending. Really, really good. The next story is called The Little Photographer. And this is about a well-to-do lady who's holidaying in France from memory with her 2 children. And while she's there, she's bored. You know, the life of luxury isn't doing it for her. She ponders what it would be like to have a secretive affair with someone. And then she goes on to have an affair. And as you can imagine, things don't pan out very well for her. This was probably my least favourite of the stories. I still enjoyed it, but I found the ending perhaps a little bit predictable. But yeah, still very enjoyable. One of the longest stories in it, beautifully written, like all of it is. But yeah, probably my least favourite out of them. The 4th and penultimate story in this collection is called Kiss Me Again, Stranger. Now, this follows a gentleman that he's a mechanic. He lives in London from memory, and he's lodging with a couple. And one evening he goes to the cinema, and there's an usherette there that absolutely captivates him. He's never fallen in love before, but this lady, he just can't resist her. And he sort of pursues her. They spend an evening together. Towards the end of the evening, they take a bus ride together, taking her home. They stop, have a coffee and a sandwich. And then she decides she wants to go and lie down in a graveyard, which is obviously a little strange. Now, they do kiss, and he's absolutely infatuated with her. She tells him to leave, which he does, and then he goes to meet her the next day, and she's not there. Again, I don't want to spoil the ending. This one, I didn't see the ending coming. I wouldn't quite call it a plot twist, but yeah, it was very good, very entertaining. Only about 20 pages long, but yeah, very enjoyable. The final story in this collection is called The Old Man, and this is very short. It's about 10 pages long. I enjoyed this story. It's told from the perspective of someone who lives by a lake, and he watches a family, the old man being the father, naturally, his wife, I think 3 daughters and a son. And the 3 daughters are, one of them he points out as being, quite beautiful and quite a notable person character-wise. But the son, who's the eldest, is described as a bit simple. He's very large, like his father's large and strong, but he's very simple. I'm not sure if it's sort of alluding to sort of learning disabilities, that sort of thing. It's got a very tragic ending to it, this one. I did enjoy it, and there is a nice metaphor at the end, a metaphor that's tied in with the natural world, and the natural world is threaded all the way through these short stories. Nature and humanity's relationship with it is prevalent throughout all of the stories, which I really like. So considering this was the first Daphne du Maurier I've ever read, I really enjoyed it. I'd give it a 7 out of 10, a strong 7 out of 10. As I said, The Apple Tree I thought was excellent. I would put that straight away into my top 10 short stories I've read, certainly within the horror genre. Now, not all of these stories I would call horror, but they all have sort of elements of that to them. So yeah, excellent collection. The next Daphne du Maurier I'll read will be the Don't Look Now collection. I'm looking forward to that. But let me know your thoughts. What did you think? Have you read this? What did you think of it? Would you give it a 7 out of 10? Did you think that the Little Photographer was a bit predictable? Have you seen the film The Birds? How do you think it compared to the short story? I'll leave it there. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.